Numerous admonitions have been expressed by prominent men of science and by experts in military technique. Not a single one of them will say that the most terrible outcomes are sure. What they in all actuality do say is that these outcomes are conceivable, and nobody should rest assured that they won't be understood. These are a portion of the words from the Russell-Einstein statement in July of 1955 pointed toward advance notice general society about the results of an atomic conflict, and encouraging nations to embrace a quiet goal during the level of the virus war. To a degree, we can say that these admonitions were noticed, but just to some extent. Today, there are almost 13,000 atomic weapons on the planet. That could seem like a great deal until you understand that during the pinnacle of the virus war, the world had an incredible 70,000 atomic weapons. And keeping in mind that the downfall is surely a positive pattern, one needs to remember that the bombs grew all the more as of late are significant degrees more impressive than those during atomic innovation's earliest stages. Russia's notorious Tsar Bomba, the most impressive atomic weapon that has at any point been tried, has a ton of fun yield multiple times more grounded than the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. To top it all off, as far as we might be aware, there may as yet be a bomb more remarkable than this that has simply never been tried. Thus, as a general rule, in spite of the fact that we have significantly less warheads, we are no farther from all-out destruction than we were the point at which we had 70,000 nukes. This danger of atomic annihilation all began when U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt set up the Warning Board of Trustees on Uranium in 1939 and dread that Adolf Hitler had proactively begun creating atomic weapons in Germany. This panel, later renamed the Workplace of Logical Innovative Work in 1941, would ultimately make the popular Manhattan task that would give America its most memorable atomic weapons. The material at the focal point of its examination was, as its unique name recommends, uranium. Uranium's hazardous expected comes from its fissile nature, implying that it very well may be separated in the perfect manner that it prompts a chain response. A free neutron finds a U-235 iota, it separates and prompts other free neutrons, which thus catch different molecules, etc. Every one of these cycles delivers huge amounts of energy, which is where the unstable capacity of uranium comes from. The more populated your objective space is with anxious fissile U-235 iotas, the more damaging the responses result. To this end, atomic weapons normally utilize improved uranium rather than normally happening uranium mineral. Obviously, uranium isn't the main fuel for atomic weapons. The Tsar Bomba was a nuclear bomb, for instance. In any case, the historical backdrop of atomic weapons begins with uranium. Furthermore, the feeling of dread toward atomic weapons isn't just about the actual impact. While Hiroshima and Nagasaki were hit with atomic weapons, bigger urban communities like Tokyo were evened out with customary weapons. Truth be told, by far most of death toll during WWII came from standard non-atomic sources. What makes the atomic assortment so risky is the effect they can have after the residue has settled. Atomic fighting can prompt warm radiation, ionizing radiation, and electromagnetic driving forces. It can introduce atomic winters, block food cycles, and cause oddities in babies that can appear in extreme clinical issues late throughout everyday life. We wouldn't require 1% of the decreased atomic armory we have today to upset the worldwide environment and compromise the existences of more than 2 billion individuals with starvation. A speculative conflict between the two most impressive atomic superpowers, the US and Russia, stands to compromise all biological systems on which life depends. Atomic weapons might possibly kill billions of individuals. In any case, imagine a scenario in which I let you know that it likewise saves a large number of lives. We stand at a critical point in the cutting-edge world. The conflict in Ukraine combined with the flowing impacts of a pandemic have left all of us disabled. Be that as it may, not in the manner in which you could think. The intrusion of Ukraine by Russia has made the whole world mindful and careful of Russia's atomic munitions stockpile, yet in addition of how much energy the nation produces, and the amount of the world is subject to it, with one of the planet's greatest gas suppliers on many nations' boycotts, fuel costs are soaring from one side of the planet to the other. The subsequent emergency has since turned into a rude awakening, with nations like Germany speeding up their progress to sustainable power. This colder time of year, Paris will switch out the lights of the Eiffel Pinnacle an hour sooner. Indoor regulators will be restricted to 19 degrees Celsius in Spain, and cafes in Italy have changed to candlelight eating. It's a positive change, one could think, to not rely upon a foe like Russia for energy. In any case, we are not exactly there with renewables right now. Renewables can create a great deal of force, now and then even all in all too much. Elon Musk has said various times that the quantity of sun-powered chargers required could really be shockingly little given the enormous measure of energy the sun sends our direction consistently. We would require around 3.2% of the expanse of land of the US to produce sufficient power to control the world. While that doesn't sound really awful, that is identical to New Mexico and Arizona, two of the biggest states in the country. It's additionally greater than 121 nations on the planet. Moreover, to saddle this power, sun-powered chargers should be set where the sun is, wind ranches should be set where the breeze is, and we really want a method for putting away all the energy that is getting created for when there is no sun and there are no breezes. Battery innovation, sadly, has not advanced very as the need might arise to coordinate with the requests of human existence. These are specialized motivations behind why renewables haven't exactly had the option to contend with conventional gas and oil. So what then? Could it be said that we are compelled to follow the impulses of Russia in light of the fact that renewables can't fulfill our necessities yet? Indeed, not really. At the point when uranium is separated into more modest molecules, it delivers a huge measure of energy that can be utilized to produce power through the course of atomic splitting. Basically, a similar interaction used to make atomic bombs could be utilized to create energy enough to control the world. Before we go on, I believe I want to make one thing understood. At last, the best type of energy is spotless, sustainable power. All I believe that we should examine is, while we trust that the innovation will fulfill up with our needs, is it feasible for atomic parting to go about as a band-aid? The innovation has been around for almost 80 years, and the course of atomic parting is without discharge. It is likewise an exceptionally effective cycle, to such an extent that a significant number of the submarines in the U.S. naval force are controlled by it, and just should be refueled once like clockwork or somewhere in the vicinity. The undeniable relationship with weaponization of this innovation is reasonable, as I've recently referenced. However, while the danger of atomic weapons is ever present, the shortcoming of an aggregate dependence on any one nation's inventory of fuel is as well. It's a huge weakness. At the point when winter comes, Germany expects gas to warm around half of its homes, gas which it doesn't have. The solid position it took toward the beginning of the Ukraine war is currently in uncertainty against a thriving interest for power. This may ultimately add up to lifting or facilitating specific authorizations against Russia, as has proactively happened less significantly. The impact of the conflict is being felt even in somewhat objective agricultural countries like Bangladesh, where oil costs were as of late raised by as much as 51%. Bangladesh is presently sending off a bid to buy Russian oil. An ever-increasing number of nations will adapt to the requirement for oil, and our unified resistance to Russia's hostility may gradually confront a materialistic end. The greatest apprehension for some with thermal power is the danger of atomic conflict. The truth, as I've said explicitly, is that uranium can kill billions. Yet, maybe there is an alternate perspective about this, one that might actually save a huge number of lives. All of uranium that we use to make clean energy is uranium that can't be utilized to make atomic warheads. As a matter of fact, around 10% of the uranium utilized in the functional atomic reactors in America were taken from decommissioned warheads. The world at present has uranium stores that can last us for 200 or 300 years. And keeping in mind that it is positively not a sustainable power source, it can get us two vital things: time to get our innovation sufficient to tackle the force of renewables, and easing of military influence by nations like Russia. In any case, this is the truth with all types of energy creation, even environmentally friendly power. They generally accompany dangers and issues that need tending to. Sunlight-based ranches occupy enormous measures of room. Wind ranches and turbines are frequently censured for their clamor levels and expected threats to natural life. These issues should be tended to before the world hugs atomic power as an aggregate energy source. Yet, on the off chance that we didn't take to the skies since we were apprehensive we'd crash, we couldn't have ever constructed the plane. However, we did, and today air travel is presently the most secure method of transportation humankind has at any point seen. The anxiety toward outcome, the very dread that has made planes the most secure method of transport, has implied that atomic power is a lot more secure than we can envision. In what is presently a somewhat popular measurement, today, less individuals pass on from atomic power than they do from sun-oriented power per measure of energy delivered. To exacerbate the situation, around 7 million individuals bite the dust from air contamination consistently. At the point when you calculate that sun-based ranches discharge multiple times more fossil fuel byproducts than atomic plants, it truly places into setting the absence of viewpoint encompassing this setup. This makes sense of a gauge from one of the main environment researchers in the U.S., James Hansen, that starting around 2013, atomic power had saved 1.8 million lives that would somehow have been lost from air contamination or mishaps during energy creation. Presently, once more, this isn't to humiliate sun-oriented energy in any way, shape, or form. It's just to give a more clear picture that maybe while we hang tight for renewables to improve to the point of serving us totally, there may be a band-aid. one that isn't just better compared to the options we as of now have, yet in addition can possibly decrease the quantity of warheads sneaking in each edge of the world. Eventually, I find it so captivating that a similar material, a similar cycle can from one viewpoint totally obliterate humankind, yet on the other be the point of support to its food. For the present,